this is the space that gives you the opportunity to build this bond with yourself. It is not the time to self-abandon and to go back into old ways or to try and fit in with people that you don't fit in with anymore. And that's really the core idea for this episode, is to hold you steady to your growth and to tell you that you're not alone, and to invite you to look at these sort of what's been called the lonely chapters as the invitation chapters to get closer to yourself. Make sure that, your growth is being honored and protected, from yourself and from others. This is the Roxanne Show. Get ready. It's time to rise. Welcome back to the Roxanne Show. Today's episode is for every single one of you that is committed to your growth in life and growth in any and all ways. I'm really excited to talk about this. I've actually never brought this up on my show before, but it is such an important topic and such a common experience for all of us who operate with a growth mindset and who put real work in our lives to actually expand ourselves and to encourage our greatest evolution. So Chris Williamson, Alex Hormozi, if you don't know who they are, I'm surprised if you're listening to my show, but no, some of the greatest, businessmen, podcasters, and they framed this chapter as the lonely chapter. So basically what they say is that, when you on this growth path, that it's inevitable that you will meet this chapter in your life that they're calling the lonely chapter, where there's so much shifts happening in your personal life, the way that you're growing and developing, that, your external world, the relationships, and a lot of other components that make up your external reality will start to, just shift basically. And it will create oftentimes this feeling of loneliness because it's hard you just don't relate as much to things or people that you had been relating to probably for the most of your life. So I'm really, really looking forward to diving into this. So let's just start with, having a growth mindset and how important that is, right? We have either the growth mindset or the fixed mindset. And I feel like if you are tuning into me, then you are someone who operates with a growth mindset. So you are certainly going to be someone that is in pursuit of experiencing more of your potential in life. You're probably someone who's very driven, very determined. You probably have big goals. You're really going for it in your life. And so much of what we do in our external world is, well, really, let's just say it like this. Everything in your external world is being impacted and directed and architected by your inner world. So let's paint a picture. You're someone who is an entrepreneur. You're building a business, and the things that you are going to experience developing a business, all of whatever the business is, all of those experiences externally, you have this whole inner experience that's happening as well. There's so many, there's mental warfare, there's challenges, there's, growth, there's aha moments, there's creativity breakthroughs. There's so much happening internally. This is my quote, the inner shapes the outer, that is simultaneously happening as you are navigating the, terrain of building a business, right? And this is just one example, but I want to just hone in on this to set the table for the episode. When we are navigating our growth and we're really making strides in it, the conversations that we want to have are going to change. The things that we pay attention to are going to change. Our interests are going to change. The degree of our consciousness, like where our consciousness is living, that's going to change. Your habits are going to change. I used an entrepreneur as an example because there's kind of a quote in the entrepreneurial world that, you know, building a business is the greatest self-development tool because it's so gnarly, you know, and it's gnarly because of the internal, you know, happenings again that unfold as you are building a business. But moving away from that idea, because I don't want this to this is way more universal than just for entrepreneurs. You know, you could be someone who is really, really focused on shifting your health, and that's going to change your whole lifestyle. And when that changes your whole lifestyle, there's a good chance that that's going to change a lot of the relationships. Maybe some of the things that were not so healthy that you used to do with some of your quote best friends, you know, who are still doing that stuff. Now you're not aligned anymore, and it's unrelatable now to be around them or to have a conversation with them. And this is, again, it's so common, and it's really important. You know, I'll use my own life as an example. I'm somewhat of, I don't know if I'd call myself a gypsy, but I have moved around a lot in my life. I mean, it started in childhood, but then, you know, immediately upon graduation, I moved to an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And then, oh my gosh, the adventure would just continue from there. Then, you know, it was another island. Then it was New York City. Then it was Paris. And I've just moved around a lot. And every new city that I lived in was a new volume of my growth, of my self-expression that was expanded, of my habits, my perspective shift. Like, so, I'm literally like a volume shift, right? And a big piece to the growth for me has been the expansion of my consciousness. And what I've discovered is that, you know, moving through my life, expanding, shifting, all the ways that I do. And for me, it's been very dramatic too, because again, moving from different cities, it's kind of, how do I frame this? It's almost like it's packaged. The growth has a package around it, right? So I can really frame it up strongly. And I noticed, you know, just pointing out conversations as an example, a lot of that changed. So my introverted side, I'm an ambivert, right? I could be extroverted in certain scenarios, but highly introverted in a lot of ways. The more my consciousness expanded, the more sort of focused I got in and very deep into the areas of interest that I love, like philosophy, like entrepreneurship, like, you know, psychology, neuroscience. The more challenging it would become to have really high level conversations with a lot of people. And I'm not saying that in this better than way. It's just the interests that I have, and especially the level that I dive into these interests. It's not common knowledge. It's not easy conversation. So it becomes less enticing and interesting to just talk to a lot of people because it's all energy, right? It's an energy exchange. So I find that I just prefer to talk less or talk to the very specific people that I know can hang at that level of conversation and also invite me into higher and deeper expressions of those areas and, you know, that conversation. And this, I'm not special. I'm just using myself as an example here to point out that this is a very common experience, and it could create a sense of loneliness. And that's why I think the boys call it the lonely chapter, which I think is really, I love that actually. It's beautiful However, this is where things are going to shift from my perspective. I believe that loneliness is often this experience where you are not connected with yourself. So, yes, moving through your growth chapters will absolutely mean relationships will fall off. You will have less connection in a lot of ways with other people, and certainly with experiences that you used to participate with more commonly. But when you're truly connected with yourself, the loneliness energy doesn't really come into the picture. And I can say that again in my own life, because while the growth was happening, I will say in the beginning, I know that feeling can come in, but here's what I want to give to you. When that feeling comes in, I want you to take it as an invitation to get closer to yourself, right? It's not an invitation to step away from your growth or to hinder your growth. And a lot of times I think people will do that because it doesn't feel safe, or it doesn't feel as easy and comfortable to live in this growth space where you are going to feel more distance from familiarity. Again, be it relationships, be it experiences that you were used to having, but you want to power through that, and you want to use this as an opportunity to get closer to yourself. Because when we are really truly bonded with ourselves, first and foremost, I mean, this is where you want to be operating from in your life. You're in you until you're out of here. So this relationship that you have with yourself, you probably want to make it really strong and powerful, loving, trusted, and full of respect. And a lot of times in these growth chapters, when that space starts to come in, this is the space that gives you the opportunity to build this bond with yourself. It is not the time to self-abandon and to go back into old ways, or to try and fit in with people that you don't fit in with anymore. And this is important because this, if it's family members, that's hard, because your family's your family, right? And if you have a good relationship with your family, I hope that you do. I understand that all of everybody does. That can become a challenge when you're the person in your family that's making radical growth happen in your life, and it becomes so obvious. You're sitting at the dinner at Thanksgiving, and you don't have the same ability to just have those conversations that you used to be able to have. That is hard. It's hard. And it's still not an invitation to retract from your growth. And that's really the core idea for this episode, is to hold you steady to your growth, and to tell you that you're not alone, and to invite you to look at these sort of what's been called the lonely chapters as the invitation chapters to get closer to yourself. These growth periods that create the space for you to actually do that with yourself. You want to realize that you are not abandoning others. You are being true to your potential. You're being true to your evolution, your highest evolution here. Ultimately, you're being true to yourself. And that's everything that I stand for. And that's everything that's the most important thing that is needed to live a self-directed life, to live a fuck yes life, full body fuck yeses, a life that really fills you up. It's not going to be easy to navigate these growth chapters, these invitation periods for you to give yourself more self-love and to really just be there with yourself, and don't run from yourself in these moments. These moments that can feel really hard. I remember so clearly when I moved back to Los Angeles after being gone for I don't even know how many, it was like a decade or something like that. And moved from New York back to Los Angeles. There were so many nights, because that was a big adjustment period for me. I was really adjusting. And there were so many nights where I'd be, specifically Friday and Saturday night, because when I lived in New York, I would go out. That's what you do in New York. You're out all the time. You're never home, or I wasn't in those years of my life. And so come the weekend, where I'm used to being out and about and, with my friends and that whole energy and nightlife. And now everything was shifting for me in massive ways. I mean, my interest shifted. Everything just, and it had been shifting. I was growing. I was going through these chapters. And I remember I lived in a place where you can hear the nightlife and it's robust. And, the weekend energy is like, be with your friends, you go out, have fun, girls are on dates, guys are on, all that energy. And I could feel it outside my home. But I don't go out to go out. I don't fill space. I don't small talk, right? It's the same thing to me. And so if I didn't have something to go to that really was going to fill me up, that would give me some, because that's the thing. It's like when I give my energy to anything, I want to be engaging with something that's going to give back to my life, not take, right? And so there were so many nights in those growth chapters where I would start to feel that sense of lonely energy. But what I did is I turned to my pages. And this is why I'm forever the advocate of writing, specifically self-directed writing. This is why it is the main vehicle of support in my mentorship with women. It's because it really, really does. It changes the game for you, the relationship that you have with yourself. Where most people in those situations would try and fill in the blank, and, go do something that wasn't really giving to them, but it was allowing them to numb that feeling of lonely and just sort of fill the space. What I did instead is I just turned to my pages and I would write and I would write and I would write and write with myself and to myself and, sort of go through what I was feeling and experiencing. And all of this was just bringing me deeper into the relationship that I have with myself. And that's what I'm sharing with you and inviting you to do. And to just first even think about, know that that's possible and know that that's such an important part of this journey, not just the journey of growth, but the journey of life. Right. And, before I'd know it, I'd fall asleep and I'd wake up and I love my mornings and, and I'd start my whole new day. And sooner than later, that feeling of the energy of lonely kind of energy that would try to come in and never fully manifested, but it would certainly come in and I'd feel it. But after repetitively turning to myself, never running from myself, never filling the space, but turning to myself and going to my pages and forging that deeper bond with myself, that feeling went away. And then it was like, I crave. I mean, my life is so different now because this was so long ago already, but it's still, I will never forget it. And I'm so glad that I don't forget it. I'm so glad that I can still feel the feelings of being in the moment, because I can look back and I can honestly say that I really did the work to develop this relationship with myself. I really did the work to navigate the growth periods that were really immense. I mean, I'm still in growth periods, right? Like big time actually, but that was a very important moment to bring into this episode for you, because I mean, you might be there right now. You might be there right now. Maybe it's your Friday night and you're watching this or listening to this and you're feeling that energy. And holy shit, if that would be really, that just fills my heart actually. Because hopefully what you take from this is just that energy of like, hey, don't run from yourself. Hey, go towards yourself. Know that your growth is you are worthy. You are worthy of this growth. You are worthy of experiencing this radical journey of your evolution, and to not back down from it, no matter how challenging it could be, and how unfortunately like relationships might fall away. It's happened in my life, and it sucks. Look, I'm fucking saying it does suck. You know, you could be best friends with someone for so long, and then all of a sudden it's like you're just not aligned anymore. Your consciousness levels, and that's a big part here. I really believe relationships, this will be its own episode. I mean, I've touched on this before, but you know, this channel is just going to continue growing. So never going to stop talking about these things. But I really believe that so much of what keeps a relationship strong and healthy and vital is twofold. Where are your consciousness levels, and what are your values? And they actually go hand in hand a lot of times, right? If you don't have similar values, I'm not saying they all have to line up and be the same, but some of those top core values do need to be in alignment. And if they're not, it's going to be really hard to navigate very closely with that individual in your life. And the same goes with your consciousness. And when I talk about consciousness, I'm also not bettering than. Everyone is where they're fucking at. Your soul is here with, you know, your own mission, your own pace, your own journey. And people evolve at, you know, in different ways at different times. But if your consciousness has expanded massively, and perhaps someone that you were very close to in your life hasn't got there yet, that's going to be very challenging to navigate life very closely together. Like how do you have a conversation when your consciousness levels are just very different? What do you do together when your values are not really aligned? So it's really, really important, and it's very simple because relationships are complex, but just to think about it in that way. What are your values and what are the consciousness levels, you know, doing? That's going to really dictate and just going to show you like how you can really get down with someone, you know, to what degree can you guys get down with each other, and for how long in your life. Huge. It's huge. And when you are growing and you're making these shifts in your life, you know, your consciousness will expand. Your values will likely shift, you know, and sometimes that shift is even, maybe some of it gets stronger where it was like not as strong before, but that's a shift all the same. And so it's going to impact your relationships, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be willing to protect your growth at all costs. You have to have boundaries even, because there will be some people who won't be comfortable with you changing, and for a lot of reasons, right? It kind of holds a mirror to them. They don't want to lose someone that they love very deeply. And so sometimes what that manifests as it becomes, you know, not great conversations or energy thrown at you. It could be a lot of just attempts to keep you from your growth, where they can keep you where they would like you to be, where you were, and you can't allow for that. You can't. You have to have boundaries, and you need to do whatever you need to do to make sure that, you know, the people who are in your life respect your choices and your journey of growth. And hopefully you have people who support your journey of growth. You know, again, turning to my life just because it's an easy example, but you know, I'm a woman on a mission. My life is literally a fucking mission. And it doesn't leave room for a lot of the usual things that most people do. It's very, I don't know if I'd use the word militant, because that can make it sound not fun. And my life is very fun to me. However, there's a fucking standard, and it's pretty repetitive. You know, I'm in bed at a certain time. I'm waking up at a certain time. You know, I'm pretty fucking consistent. And the things that I say yes to, that's probably one of the biggest things that changed over the years as I got deeper into my dharma, my mission, you know, and what I'm building out in my life. And that's like a form of a boundary in a way too, right? It's like, I'm not going to say yes to a lot of things that will take away from my mission, from what I need to do to continue this growth and to grow the things that I am so devoted to bringing into life. You know, and that's just an example using my life, but it could relate to yours. So pulling this all together, I just want to reframe the lonely chapter with I love how they frame it. Because to be honest, it's valid. I want to jujitsu the perspective a bit, because that's what I do here, and have you feel into this differently than it just being lonely segments, and instead see it as invitations to get closer to yourself, to be more devoted to your growth, to your goals, to the things that are driving you forward and actually, you know, creating the growth in your life, and to stay very grounded in your boundaries so that you can make sure that, you know, your growth is being honored and protected, you know, from yourself and from others, right? It's so, so important. So I'd love to know what you think about this. Please let me know in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe first and foremost. Helps this channel to grow. Also, if you would like to, thinking about like the lonely chapter and, you know, relationships, and you might be someone that you don't have that many people to talk to about your growth and the things that you're interested in, and, you know, this growth mindset journey and your self-development and all of that. Well, then I'm inviting you to come hang out with me in my Substack. So Substack is my favorite place online. I say it so often because it's the truth. It's the gallery where my writing lives, outside of my books. First book is coming out this year. Well, depending on when you're watching this or listening to this, it's 2025. It's coming out soon. Holy shit. And also, though, I have a paid program in my Substack where there's monthly group mentorship calls. So mentorship with me, you're in a community of badass, heart-centric women who are really doing the work. So, and that's, you know, so much of the incredible value that comes from my Substack as well, because the women in there are really just supporting each other. It's incredible and so heart moving and inspiring to see. But I'm in your corner there, and, you know, we navigate these growth chapters together and help you to live a self-directed life and to build this unbreakable bond with your authentic self. That's the goal here. So if you would like to join, there is a link in the show notes to come join me on Substack. And if you would take a moment to give this podcast a 5-star rating review, link is also in the show notes or description if you're watching on YouTube. It would mean the most world to me and my team. We truly are devoted on a mission to get this show out into the world, into even more of a bigger expression, to support more of you out there. So your voice matters in this journey. Thank you so much for all of you. Take the time to do that, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review.